Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Work up.
What WTF is?
WTF. What? Who's a what? Who's getting married?
Who's getting married? What?
Hello and
I'm
welcome.
really confused.
That's largely the point. Hello and
As
welcome
intros
to the
go, that was a
latest
shit one.
episode of what do we call it? Three Grots, not three snots. Three Grots in a Vox. When this week we are talking about Tempest of War, which is a pack of cards that you can buy off Games Workshop for the huge sum of 19 Great British Pounds, or like 16 quid if you buy it through an Element Games affiliate link, such as the one we might conveniently have in the video description of this video below. But before we get started, Tony, do you have a drink?
What? Oh yeah, I have.
The important thing that people give a shit about, you know.
Yeah, so
people
today
actually
I'm
watch our
Kieran,
videos.
and that's because my local breweries still piss me off, so I'm boycotting them and drinking Kirin instead.
And
I like Kirin.
I was going to say, while you're opening that, we can just say that if you are an American viewer, you can probably pick this up super cheap now because the pound is worth nothing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, great. Let's bring some politics into this. Yeah, how can this possibly go wrong? I've got something as well. I've got a can of something that I found from a local.
Is that a Bazinga?
No, it's not Bazinga. It's just Zinger. But it's close, so whatever. It's really nice. I loved it. It's I'm not sure if it's cider made from honey or just honey flavoured cider, but that's basically what it is. Fine organic blossom honey from Europe is the basis of all our creations. The combination of honey, apple wine, carbonated water, citric acid, and natural flavour creates a unique, light, refreshing taste.
Oh, well, let's pivot this episode already and go. WTF is apple wine.
Yeah.
Who cares? I just like this stuff.
Someone in the comments is already typing me an essay. Well, the difference between apple wine and cider is the way that it's fermented.
Yeah.
I was going to say, someone's going to need to be in that friggin' pit, you know, when they stamp the grapes. Someone's going to need to be in there with the apples for a very long time.
Let's add some bees as well, covered in bees. Yeah. Woo.
I feel like that's a real 14th century job where they're like, right, you must go in there and stamp on those apples. It's like, it's not happening.
Be some monk. I don't know why he's Belgian in my head.
Belgium.
Probably that's still our advert or something, right? That's Belgium, right? Or no?
It is Belgium. Did you see they did Stella did cider, didn't they?
They did do cider. I actually quite liked it.
I don't know if they still do.
I haven't seen it for a while, actually.
I don't like Stella. I think it's rank.
Are you lot waiting for me to shut you up so we can get on with this, or are we just going to talk bollocks for another 5 or 10 minutes?
Well, you brought it up.
That's very true.
With your weird beer. Sorry. Weird
beer. Beer wasn't a word that even passed my lips. It's either cider or wine or some weird flavour. Anyway, Tempest of War is a card-based match play mission pack designed for casual pick-up-and-play games. This pack contains an easy-to-follow mission sequence, a set of objective markers. Oh, yeah, I threw that away the first thing I opened it, so they'd be useless. And all the deployment...
The free ones we got from Warhammer World.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And all the deployment mission rules, primary mission and secondary mission cards that can be used to generate thousands of different incursion or strike force missions.
That's the objective markers. They just pick card.
Yeah, they're the right dimensions, they're the right size, but if you've already got objective markers, then you don't need any more objective markers. They're just... Yeah, there you go. You'll need a copy of the Warhammer 40k rule core book. You do not need any chapter-approved Nephilim stuff or anything like that. This does all of that stuff for you, which is pretty
Which means you go back up to the original amount of CP if you care about that.
Yeah, or if you want to play it Nephilim style, you can just adjust the CP down.
To be honest, that's what we're doing. We're using a bit of a combo. We're using the Nephilim kind of points and CPs, but the Tempest of War cards still.
Yeah, it depends on whether we want more CP to play with for just the fuck of it, really. But that's essentially how it's working. So yeah, this is the main, for me, selling point of Tempest of War. If you can't be asked with secondaries, if you can't be asked building an army around them, if you can't be asked thinking ahead of what secondaries am I going to take, what army am I playing against, fuck it, just play Tempest of War. Takes all of that out of it.
It does.
Sounds pretty.
I've just made a fuck up. I've just shuffled my Tempest of War deck, which means I've now muddled all the cards up.
Is that all the different types of cards that you just shuffled?
Yes.
Okay, that's not helpful. Sorry. John, yes.
It reminds me, and I haven't picked it up, but it reminds me of the clusterfuck that was 8th edition match play, which
Maelstrom.
I hated with a passion.
I loved it.
It's inspired by it and does a lot of the things in the same sort of way, but all of the stuff that was bullshit about the old Maelstrom of War stuff is gone. It just works. It works so better. They've thought of all the issues, they've thought of all the problems, they got rid of them. It's great.
Cool.
Definitely works a lot better. I wouldn't say it doesn't have any problems at all. I think that'd be a slight.
It doesn't have any problems with the objectives and the way they're worded. So, like, if you draw one like kill a fly or anything like that, they're all taken care of, all that sort of thing. So what do you get in it? You get a rules pamphlet, which is a little fold-up concertina thing, like Tony is ably modelling. Is he above or below? I have no idea how the pictures are oriented.
He's below
here.
you, yeah.
Okay, below me, yeah. Woo! No, that's even more dodgy. Tony's not below me. And this rules booklet is basically chapter-approved Nephilim or Nachmund or whatever the fuck you want to do it. It replaces it entirely. It's all the stuff about how to deploy, when you should draw your cards, where you deploy stuff, how many CP you get, rolling for this, rolling for that, how many cards you get. It's how to play the game. Basically, it's all in there.
You got anything to say about that? Or you just
No,
drift?
Not
Just
really.
let that hang there.
Yeah, I wanted to see if either of you two had anything to say. And sort of, this is
Well,
us collaborating.
we haven't seen the PowerPoint, so I don't know where it's going to go next. Because I love Nephilim. Sorry, Nephilim. I love Tempest of War. I think it's wicked. I think you've got on there how you draw the cards and when you draw the cards and things like that.
Yeah, sort of. So aside from the rules template thing in here, you've got a huge amount of cards. You get a set of 6 deployment cards, which are pictured there. I'm not showing you the whole thing because I don't want to get shit from GW, but you get a picture of what they are. It's fairly obvious to see the kind of deployments you get. You draw them randomly, or you pick one that you like, and then you deploy, and you go, and it's all good. They have 6 mission types, which are roughly analogous to the sort of missions that you'll get in chapter approved and whatnot. Again, I'm not showing all of them because I don't want to get shit, but you can see the sort of missions that you get there. So you're scoring points for being on objectives, hold 1, hold more, the sort of criteria you get at the end of the battle or during every battle round if it wants to make you do stuff during the game and so forth. And then
beginner question: are both players playing the same missions at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So one deck will do for 2 players.
Okay.
One pack of Tempest of War contains everything for 2 players to play the game, which is also worth noting because it's like actually consumer friendly, which is weird. So yeah, you pick a mission between you, or you randomly draw a mission between you. You're both playing the same mission with all the criteria that's on there. You also draw a complication or a mission rule, which is a weird Razzie rule that mixes and changes up the game based on what you draw and do. And one of them in there is nothing special happens. But as you can see from the 3 there that I've put the front and show there, they can add weird little complications to your game. So one of them makes it easy to put stuff into strategic reserves. One of them there is going to blow up if you get on objective markers. If you're
Do you know, last time I played this, I drew Warp Lightning and I did more damage to myself with Warp Lightning. I was playing Custodes than my opponent managed to do to my Custodes in the game.
Okay.
The Warp Lightning killed more Custodes than the opponent did. Every turn, it's like, and he explodes, and he explodes.
There's random stuff in here. There's all sorts of interesting ones. If you want to read through what they all are, buy it, read through it. There's some cool stuff. If you
So
want to just randomly experience them as you go by.
I was going to say, this sounds like it keeps you on your toes, or it makes every game different, does it?
Exactly. You could have any of the 6 deployments, any of the 6 missions, any of the 6 mission rules on top of it as well to just stack it all together and stop every game from being the same, essentially.
It sounds pretty fun.
And then,
that's really the point. Is it works quite nicely to make sure that you're never playing the same thing quite the same twice, especially because it's intended. I know Mark's been saying about you can pick it. It's not really designed for that. The idea is that you go into this not knowing what you're going to get, and you draw these cards blind. And
this is
like,
the ultimate.
Today we are playing on this deployment, and fuck, this is the mission rule. None of us like this one, but we're gonna have to put up with it. So it just adds that level of randomness.
Yeah. It's also not just for casual play. If you want to test an actual take-all-comers list and see that it can cope with all the challenges, playing some Tempest of War games is pretty good at testing that, because you could be doing bloody anything in a Tempest of War game.
I see.
The objectives you'll be doing turn by turn will change.
Do you build for Tempest, or do you not build for Tempest?
I don't build for Tempest. I build for competitive play, and then sort of like if I need to adjust something for Tempest, I will do, but I'll just take a list from there into it.
See, I build for Tempest.
What do you do to build for Tempest?
Well, I assume that your next line is going to be about the secondaries.
Yeah.
So let's go on the next slide, then I'll tell you how I build for it.
So in the pack, you also get 2 decks of secondary objectives, and there's 20 secondary objectives in each deck, and each player also gets a stratagem to use alongside it. Every turn you draw until you've got 3 stratagems in your 3 objectives in your hand, and any you achieve get scored and put aside, and you can save any that you want to achieve next turn, and any that you want to get rid of at the end of the turn that you don't think you're going to score, you don't like, you can just discard them at the end of the turn for free. If there's one you don't like at the time you draw them, you can spend a CP to use this stratagem and just draw a new one.
That's what That's what they needed in Maelstrom. That was the problem with Maelstrom, is you would get a card that was like, take objective A, and it's in the enemy's deployment zone, and you're never getting to objective A, and you were like, fuck, well, that's points I just can't score.
And you still get that a little bit, but you can burn it for a CP.
It's mitigated a little bit to this, and that bullshit was why I was really skeptical of this, because I hated Maelstrom for all that sort of stuff.
So what happens if you go through all the whole deck? Does the deck get shuffled back again, or are you out?
I'm not sure you can.
You won't get through the whole deck. It's like 20 odd cards, and you've got your own deck.
Okay.
So if
you burnt them all every turn, you would only get through 15.
If you do 15, and then you burn for each turn to discard one and draw another one, that's the only time you'll get through the entire deck.
Okay.
So, yeah, you'd really struggle.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
So each deck is 20 cards. These are some of the cards that you'll see. They're all the usual sort of stuff. Go here and claim this point. Claim an objective outside your deployment zone. Keep a tally of how many units you've killed in melee. When you reach so many units, score this objective. Each of these secondary missions is like a secondary objective for the turn on its own, and they're all worth the same amount of points, which is going to be 5.
That's not. I think there's a couple that are worth more than that. Sorry, there's a couple that are worth less than that. Sorry.
There's a few that can be worth less depending on if you do them in a slightly lesser fashion. That one on the right there, overwhelming firepower, for example, if you don't quite fulfill it, you can get 2 points rather than 5 points.
Yeah. Investigate sites, extend battle lines, those sorts of things. So, as an example, extend battle lines. Secondary mission is achieved at the end of your turn if you control the objective market in your own deployment and 1 or more in no man's land. If you only have 1 unit remaining in your army, this is instead achieved at the end of your turn if that unit controls 1 objective marker in no man's land. And there's a few that are a little bit more like that, or you'll get half points if the opponent's got yours.
You've got to be careful on how you read them, just so that you make sure you're scoring them correctly and how to score them the most. But none of them are massively hard. The hardest you'll get will be score this if you hold your opponent's objective in their deployment zone. Oh, that's a point. At 2,000 points, a game has 5 objectives.
Okay.
1,000 points, it has 4 objectives, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they say it so that 1 in your opponent's DZ, 1 in your DZ, and the rest spread around no man's land, and you alternate who puts one out where.
Bring it down could be an absolute bastard to get, depending on what you're playing against.
Well, yeah, but again, that has ways in it to get around it if you need to, or you can discard it using the stratagem to do so. Just having another look at another couple to give you ideas of how they can be. The sort of things that they put in there as rules to mitigate not being able to do them is being shown on these. So, assassination. Let's say you can't do that because you've already killed all your opponent's characters. In previous old Maelstrom of War, that would have been a problem. In this one, you're good to go. If you've killed them all, great.
So what, you would just score it straight away and get the 5 points or something?
Read it. If all character or warlord units from your opponent's army roster have been destroyed during the battle, then you score it at the end of your turn. Just
okay.
Like that.
Yeah, sorry. The thing confused me is Tony said some were worth 5 and some were worth less.
This isn't one of them.
Do they specifically say if they're worth less, and then if they
Yeah.
don't, there's just 5? Okay.
So
If
it'll
they
have
don't-
on there like additional conditions. If you don't meet the full condition, it will say score 2 victory points instead of scoring 5.
I see.
If they
Okay.
don't say how much they're worth
worth
5.
Okay.
And that's part of the rules that's covered in the little pamphlet at the start of the thing. And the raised banner one there, as you can see, it's completed when a unit completes the raised banner action. One unit
In No
has to
Man's
do it.
Land. Sure. So,
Yeah.
are you still scoring primary points here or not?
Yep.
You
Yep.
are,
You're still
so-
scoring primaries throughout the game as well.
I see. Okay, so it's primaries plus these sort of 5-point individual
So you draw your primary mission when you draw your kind of deployment zone and your
Yeah.
field.
That was one of the
whatever's
6.
going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'm with you.
it's structured very similar to a 9th edition game that you got primaries on one hand, secondaries on the other hand.
Cool.
But what the secondaries are randomly changes turn by turn and can literally be anything and take you from any side of the battlefield to the other, and you have flexibility in how you do them.
Cool. Sounds interesting,
yeah.
actually.
Do you think you'd pick it up?
I just had a really bad. I just hated. What was it? We called it Maelstrom.
Maelstrom of War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never enjoyed Maelstrom. I was so happy when 9th became
There
more.
was so much bookkeeping with it. It was so random. It could just be really good for someone and really bad for someone else, and there was very little mitigation against it. I'm totally with you. I despised it.
I think this is genuinely better. Now, this has actually replaced my standard way of playing 40k at the moment. I
Yep.
play a lot more Tempest than I do kind of normal match play missions.
And to
one of
summarise
the
how I
reasons
feel
for
about
that-
this as well.
There you go. I would agree with that.
What does
Have you got much of a summary on the end of this,
IMNSHO
Mark?
mean?
Am I
In my not so humble opinion.
Okay.
show?
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough.
Because I'm cool or something. No, I just know loads of
Damn you
really
kids.
weird, silly acronyms. Yeah. So that's
Anyway,
the
yeah,
last slide
so-
on Tempest. Yeah. What do you think,
Okay.
guys? Well, obviously, Tony, you love it. John,
do.
would you buy it? Would you play it?
Do you know what? We have 2 decks. I've just never pushed to play it. I think I have this GT coming up and then the team tournament, but maybe after that we could get some Tempest on the stream, and maybe when you guys come visit, then that's what we could
Yeah, we'll
play some
definitely play
Tempest.
Tempest.
Yeah.
Um,
Give it
Can
a
I
go,
just
to
say
mix it
why
up
I
and
think
play
you'll
differently.
like this? Sorry?
Go for it.
Right, because I think John will like this, genuinely, because, and it ties into why I think you have to build armies differently, it works as a balancing mechanic. Because if you've got armies that are incredibly strong,
At
this
scoring
kind of-
secondaries, maybe you mean?
scoring like
Yeah.
their second, you can't build for your secondaries anymore. It's like if you're bringing Voidsman because you need Nakmund, you're not going to get Nakmund. Then
If,
you might
if you're
find a
worried about
use for them.
sisters having insanely powerful secondaries,
Well, that's all gone.
totally irrelevant.
And at the same time, you can't build just to kill your opponent. You've got to think about some of the different secondaries that are going to come up. So what this does is, because it's random, especially playing it, like I said, arguably kind of properly, whether you're picking missions and things randomly, you're picking deployment zones randomly, you can't bank on, right, I'm going to build my army all around 3 units of Sanguinary Guard, 2 units of Death Company, and in turn 1 I'm going to run forward and try and kill everything, because you've got no idea what the mission is going to look like. You've got no idea what secondaries you've got. It might turn out that you pull 3 secondaries and all 3 of them require you to hold your objectives in your deployment zone and not leave them.
Which is
And
why
then
I mentioned I like it as a test for a take-all-comers list. If you're playing this, you've got to be ready to literally do anything the game can throw at you.
Yeah, it might throw at you, and you're walking your whole army forward. You've brought a really slow army and purposeful because you're going to hold the midfield, and then it throws, get a unit on your back objective, and you think, bollocks, I've just marched my whole army and I've got nothing quick that can fly back there, or the only thing that can fly back there is a third of my army in this one unit. So what it encourages you to do is bring a completely balanced army that can do a bit of everything.
Although having said that, mobility is always useful.
You know, and then you've even got the other side of counterplay where you're thinking, right, bring it down, for example. Bring it down's rules are, it's going to mean that they have to kill whatever the thing on your army has with the most wounds.
Hold on, I thought I just want to say it, sorry.
Had to happen, didn't it?
We knew it was going to come in.
We'll
talk about
sooner
it
or
when we come
later.
back. Gives me time to find Bring It Down card.
That seems fair. So, what did you look at the other Golden Demon entries? Did any particularly take your eye, Tony?
Yeah, actually. The guy who got bronze did this really cool, I can't remember what category it was in, but he did a really cool Skaven diorama.
Oh, when they were all
I think it was
crawling
the jewel,
down the walls.
I really liked that. Cult of Paint did some great coverage of Golden Demon this year, and they've made a lot of little videos which were brilliant. I'm still salty though that we couldn't go.
Yeah, that pissed me off that it sold out so quickly. It would have been great to go there and see all the various entries and whatnot.
I was going to enter. I was going to paint Gabriel Seth and put him in there.
What? Just dip him in some red. There you go. This is my best Gabriel Seth.
Well, no, because then I could give it to them at the end and be like, "You haven't got one in the cupboard. Do you want this one?"
Oh, brilliant! That would have been awesome.
Do you reckon we're going to get in trouble because we filmed that intro there? Now we've found out that you're not allowed to film things at Warhammer World.
Oh shit! If they didn't know previously, they're gonna watch this video now to find out, aren't they? Oh, fuck knows. If we haven't gone in trouble,
I was going to say, where did you film, like?
Literally,
I filmed that thing with Gabriel Seth, didn't I?
That he's saying he was so shit, he's not even in the Games Workshop display cabinets.
Oh, that tiny little bit. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think when they mean filming, they mean like
probably don't rock up the film crew.
Yeah. I think like
possibly
filming big sections, maybe. I don't know. I think you're allowed to film a bit and take photos, because they do say take as many photos of the display models as you like, don't they?
Yeah. And
so
somebody in the Discord was suggesting maybe we take 24 photos a second. Do it that way.
That's not a bad idea, I guess, if you want to technically not film.
Anyway, so what I was talking about was building your army around some of these secondaries. Ones like Bring It Down. Bring It Down means your opponent has to kill the thing on your army. So they draw it. They've got to kill the thing in your opponent's army with the most wounds. Well, if you can control what that thing is with the most wounds, you can control what they've got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to my custodes, for me, that was my Telemon Dreadnought. And I'm thinking, right, well, I'm going to put him here and I'm going to try and bait you into trying to kill it, because they've got a choice. They know the Telemon's an absolute bastard to kill, but do they burn the card and, you know, risk getting something even worse that they just can't do? Or do they try and kill it?
Or do they not score that this turn?
Or do they
and
not
maybe
score
you can
that
pull
this
ahead
turn
on
and think-
secondaries. Yeah.
So it adds this whole new layer of like bringing units that you know can bait your opponent, or making sure you've got variety of units, because you're going to need some fast ones, you're going to need some slow tanky ones, because there's some hold objective things in here. So you can't just rely on clearing your opponent off the objective. You stay on an objective. And again, if you're just using jump pack troops with melee weapons, that's not ideal. So you've got to have something that you can think, right, I can use, I'm going to hold an objective unit. This is my nipping around unit. This is my bait unit, or, this is what I'm going to use. I've got to get no prisoners. There's things, kill things with guns, kill things with melee. So you need to bring some guns and some melee if you want to be able to get those different objectives. Or you go completely the other way. You think, bollocks to it, I'm going to burn any objectives that I can't do, spend those CP, and not bring any guns. And if it comes up, I'll just burn it.
Yeah.
So it adds a new layer to kind of army design, but it really promotes building balanced lists instead of mental skew lists that might be funny, but aren't always the most fun.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of people that bring skew lists. So In Maelstrom, you didn't show your opponent your objectives. Your secondaries, right?
In this, your opponent knows what you've drawn, and
Okay.
you know what your opponent has drawn. Yeah, that's
so
an
that's a
open thing.
distinct difference as well, I guess.
And
Yeah.
you can use that, which I think is brilliant. So yeah, I really like it, and I think it works really well for me as a kind of balancing, because the armies have got ridiculously strong secondaries or are ridiculously killy in that. Some of these rules can really kind of balance that out.
Yep. If you just want to play some 40k, you're not worried about being competitive, you're not worried about choosing secondaries, you're tired of playing the same old missions out the core book or whatever else, give this a go. It'll mix it up. It'll be a good laugh.
Well, it sounds pretty fun. I have a lot less reservations about playing it now that you guys have explained it. I don't think they explained it as well as that on the official GW website, etc.
No, they sent a few copies out to influencers to try and review it to get over these reservations, but still, you kind of had to play it and experience
Not
it.
many of those influencers actually played it, I noticed as well. A few of them just sort of talked about it a little bit, but they're like, well, we mostly paint things, or we're mostly all about competitive. Because you're not going to get this in a tournament.
Now. Yeah.
Because
actually, no, that's not true. Workshop at Warhammer World have run a 2-day Tempest of War event.
it's not quite what I mean though when I'm saying like GTs. Like,
yeah, okay, fine. Although that would be cool.
that would be wicked, but because you could get some really shitty hands, but then at the same time you could blow up all your custodes with a warp storm.
Yeah, exactly. And
so it kind of balances out a
who's
little bit.
most able to take advantage of all this stuff and play with it.
It's about who's the most flexible player rather than who's got the most powerful codex or the most clear plan of how they're going to score all their points. Because you've got to be able to pivot on the spot. And it can swing wildly. Maybe you're a bit behind, but you draw some good cards and you know how you can exploit them and score a lot of points.
You going to give it a go, John, on a Wednesday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think I should give it a go. It sounds like it would be silly not to. Like,
it would annoy the crap out of Andrew, because he loves to know exactly what he's doing with his net built list at all times.
He does like to build net
Are you
lists.
trying to say that Andrew net lists?
And he's absolutely not a cheat in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
How's
Andrew,
his
I love
going?
you. You know that.
Has he built them yet?
The squats, he started building them, and he linked me this hot video. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Have you heard of the slap chop painting video that's going around at the moment? Which is
That annoys me, that video.
I first saw it a year ago. They started
It's
promoting that.
really old. It's a really old technique of the. Yeah, here we go. This is a penitent engine that I've got prepped to paint, and I've prepped this to paint. It come in the 8th edition Sisters box, and you could argue that I've slap chop prepped it. I haven't. I've done the standard kind of zenithal that everyone does, and if you paint it with clear paints over the top, it's slap chop. It's a new name people have come up for the technique that people have been using now for the last 20 odd years of clear paints over a gradient.
But sounds like PR,
I think what's happened is the YouTube algorithm at some point down the line must have, because that's the thing with YouTube is like, sometimes you put a video out and it does nothing, and then all of a sudden it can go like bang, 200,000 views. You're not really sure why, and it gets it's the slap chop. Sorry, my daughter is climbing around.
Someone
in bed.
very cleverly coined a term, and it's just gone absolutely mental.
It's not a bad painting method. To be fair,
it's a great painting method for doing things quickly. It's how I get so much done. But I've never called it slap chop. It's always just been.
So what exactly is the method then, Tony? Just for anybody who might.
Largely, what you do is you paint your volumes on the model before you add colour. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can use what they call a zenithal prime, which is where you paint the model black, and then you use from an angle above. You would use a pale colour, and then.
So that has light areas above and dark areas below.
Yeah, so you've got the highlights done with the rattle cans, which is largely what I've done with that one. You can use a dry brush to dry brush on the pale areas, and you can get really technical and use airbrushes. You don't have to use black and white. Some colours work better than others. There's some people like undercoating. I use often brown and kind of a cream colour if I want to paint like yellow on a model, or there's lots of different pinks. One that people use pink to white because that looks really nice if you're doing yellow models. But anyway, the basic idea is you use a system which is used to be called underpainting, but you would pre-shade your model up, you get all your volumes correct and your highlights correct, and then you basically just slap contrast paint over the top of it.
Yeah, or any other transparentish paint.
Or any other transparentish paint, inks or whatever. And that means that your gradient from underneath that you did with the light shows through. Now, the beauty of that is if you do it like that with a rattle can, is you can do that, dry brush it up to get your highlights on, and then you just contrast painting a model, which takes 20 minutes. And it can look really good.
Coming next week on the Grots channel, Tony slap chops the Grots.
I'm not calling it that. I don't know who's come up with that bloody name, but it's just it's just pre-shading and underpainting.
Come up with your own name.
Yeah, you need to come up with a more
30-odd years.
A more clickbait name than slap chop.
Grot slapping. I don't know. Grot dipping. Grot squashing.
Squat chopping. I don't know.
You can take it much further because you do that and then you go over the top of it and you do detailing, because it's one of the ways that I speed paint a lot of things, and it's a speed painting technique. It's been around for years. And what you do is you speed paint it up like that, and then you go in and maybe use some oils or some highlights and that. You add a few points of detail to brighten up the model, and that's how you can get a good looking model quickly. In fact, before all this slap chop bollocks happened, you can go back and watch my night that came out fucking months ago where I've used slap chop to paint it.
For those of you who are not long-term viewers, Tony's just coming off the back of moving house, and you can see that he's got a whole load of stored-up hobby and rant and painting and gaming all sort of in there, bursting to get out, really.
But that's the pile of Forge World I've got to do.
No, how long?
I was going to say,
did you have that before you moved, or has that been piling up since you moved?
Bit of both.
Okay.
If none of that gets slap chopped, then I don't know if we can keep you on this channel.
Ooh. The Sanguinius slap chop challenge.
Clickbaity names for old techniques.
Maybe the next painting competition has to be slap chop entries only.
Yeah. You got to film it in 20 minutes.
Quite possibly.
Speed painting, yeah, I'd love that. Do the whole what's the best thing you can do in an hour or say, or 20 minutes or whatever. That can be a laugh.
I tell you, how slow I am at painting. I went to
maybe you should slap chop then.
Yeah, no, I went to Warhammer Fest a few years back, and they just the year that they released contrast paints, and they were giving everybody contrast paints, and I sat down and I was like, oh god, I don't have my magnifying glass, I don't have my extra lights, I'm just gonna try and do some painting, and it's like I painted it, I took a photo of it and put it on Reddit, and Reddit were destroyed me. And I was like, oh my god, yeah.
So there's a nice little segue, isn't there? What are we looking at, John?
Terrax Siege Drill.
This is a pile of what you've been painting for the last couple of weeks. Is that right?
This is a PayPal dispute, actually.
That laser destroyer looks just about ready to slap some clear paints on.
Oh yeah, it does,
doesn't it? Those drills at the front on the Terrax look the same as well. Yeah, so I got this today. Actually, I got it all here in front of me. I'm very happy to have got it because it was commissioned months ago. So these are things that I thought maybe 6 months ago would be really fun to run. The laser destroyer, the Terrax, the
laser destroyer still will be. The termite probably will be.
Yeah, I was thinking.
The ironclad probably still will be.
I think I want to try a list with the termite with 5 scouts on the side of it. And I guess relentless assault / behind enemy lines.
Why wouldn't you put some Death Company on foot in it?
Because I'm just going to do action monkeys stuff with the scouts.
Actions. Just seems like really expensive transport for.
Well, I'm not using. The thing is, it's got 5 melters on it, right? And it's...
so you're thinking it's the damage delivery thing, and the scouts are just along for the ride.
Yeah, because if you think about it this way, right? The Terrax is D3+6 into vehicles, and it doesn't degrade, and it's got stronger because it's toughness 8 with armor of contempt. And yeah, it normally only gets 3 attacks, but it's got the Blood Angel keyword, so it gets +2 attacks. So you're 5 attacks, potentially 9 damage a swing into enemy vehicles. So I just think it might be a nice little bit of threat in that, and also even on 1 wound, its weapon skill doesn't degrade, so it's still going to get 4 up to hit. And it's strength 16 or something like that, so it's always going to wound on 2s. So 180 points. If you think about People are wanting to see a gladiator in combat. People are wanting to see those new storm speeders. Why not a siege drill that's just going to pop up in someone's face in turn 2 and maybe it makes a charge? If it doesn't and it's sitting out in the open, it's going to draw
Then it's still
firepower.
a fairly resilient vehicle with a lot of threat to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just going to be really annoying, isn't it? It's going to be an annoying speed bump, even if it doesn't kill anything.
Well, and when you pop up 9 inches away, you are going to get to fire 5 melta-guns and a couple of Volkites. So that's not an insignificant amount of damage either, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Is that an ironclad I see there? Sorry.
It is indeed an ironclad, yeah. I don't own an ironclad, but I do now. See 2 combat weapons, so you can reroll ones.
With the assault launchers as well.
Yeah. And then
I didn't put the assault launchers on mine. I don't. I think they're too many points for something you still got to spend strap SCP on.
True. And then finally 10 Tempest Scions, which I was going to be using as Voidsman. I converted them up, so the couple there that you see have shotguns on them. The rest we're going to just have lasguns, and I cut off all the hotshot like lasgun rails, so they just look like regular lasguns.
Okay.
I
was going to ask what that little pile of stuff is in the top left corner, but it's the arms for the men, isn't it?
It's the arms for the Scions, yeah, just lasguns. But the thing that I liked about Scions is you could almost make them look like, a bit like, see when I did my scouts, I actually bought the Palatine Enforcers from the Necromunda. They're basically guys that look like they're wearing like a bit like NFL hockey jumpers or something, right?
Yeah, they're the replacement for the Adeptus Arbites, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of.
And I painted them all up Blood Angels colours just because I thought, like, these guys look cooler than Scouts. Their bolt guns have the big, like, the 1950s Tommy gun. On the bolt.
Big drum magazines.
And I just thought, like, fuck it. That seemed like who Scouts need a refresh, right? They're so old, they look terrible.
Absolutely.
So
in so many ways.
Tempest Scions for my Voidsman. And at the time when I bought these, you couldn't buy the new Voidsman set. They were out of stock for forever, the Lucian Star Riders, right?
Maybe they will get a refresh or some kind of buff whatsoever in the balance slate in 2 weeks from time of filming, which will be a week from time of release of this video, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm looking for a new commission
painting. Did you make this? Sorry, just to check. Did you build these models and then send them to your painter who fucked it up, or did he build these up, John?
He built everything, magnetized it all for me. But he refunded the whole cost of the painting, so I'm needing a new commission painter. You're not that busy, Tony. You don't have that many Forge Road boxes behind you. Let me know when you're ready to paint.
One of them's a laser destroyer.
Okay. What's the big one with the Titanicus symbol on it?
That's my big, exciting new thing.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarity there. Appreciate it.
That's a secret. I'm going to do a video on it.
Yeah, all right. No worries.
I'm going to do a video review. I'm going to get it out. We'll unbox it. Then I'll build it. And then we'll film a review of the model when I built it.
Oh, the model. Right. Okay. Good. I'm glad that's what we're talking about.
Well, what else are we talking about?
And on that note,
what could it be?
Fuck knows. Something big.
What armies does Tony have?
All of them.
Great many of them.
Trick question.
I've been doing very little.
Like it sometimes.
This was almost a page of shame.
This is just a pile of codexes, and it doesn't have either my custodes and Space Marines aren't in there.
Nice.
Fair enough. This is almost a page of shame with no pictures on it, but nothing but the words "page of shame" on it. But I realise I've been vaguely doing some things on there. I've had a really hard last couple of weeks of work because FIFA is a monster, and there's lots of FIFA in the world. But I have been getting some Dire Avengers. 5 of those 10 Dire Avengers were old and on 25mm bases and were painted a really bad blue. So I tried getting some base expanders for them, and I tried paint stripping them, but I put the base expanders on before paint stripping them. So the paint stripper melted the resin base expanders. So I just went, fuck it, cut the bases off completely, bought some new bases, as well as 5 more Dire Avengers, hence making that blob we have there. Put a little bit of paint on my Banshees. And then with one of the Autark kits I've got left over from the Eldritch Omens box earlier in the year and bits from the Dire Avengers kits, I decided to kit Bash and Azurman model. because the Azerman model is metal and very, very old, and Azerman is kind of cool. So I made an Azerman.
It looks good, actually. It doesn't look like a conversion, which I think is about the highest praise I can give it.
Thank you. I'll take that.
You know, it looks like a model that you would buy.
It does very much so, doesn't it?
I'll take that.
I like it. It's even got a tactical rock.
It has tactical rock. It's got the special Dire Avenger symbol on top of the banner. Yeah.
Is
Excellent.
that a plain banner? Like, is that a banner you were expected to paint like a design onto, or a color?
That's a banner that comes with the Autarch. There's nothing on it but a little bit of texture from the way it ripples hanging off there. So Azerman, the model, has a classic banner design, which if I'm going to replicate it properly, is going to be a lot of work trying to paint that design on the back of this.
I think what it was.
It's a picture of Azerman standing there with like celestials.
Oh yes, I do remember it now. Yeah, it will be hard,
along the bottom, which I'm probably not going to manage, or even
Can
slightly
you make a transfer?
Maybe,
because you can buy transfer paper, just plain, print on it, and then cut it out. Yeah, print on it on a normal printer, and then cut it out.
I might have a look, see what's on the various Eldar transfer sheets now that you've mentioned it, to be honest, and see if there's. I can just put some colours on underneath and put the transfers on top, and it might not look completely shit. So that could be worth a go.
I still have some of those old stickers. Remember from like second edition that you would stick on the like Space Marine banners? They never lasted. I still have some brand new on the sticky. I mean, who knows how much they would still stick.
And that was after the days and they expected you to cut them out of the pages of the White Dwarf itself.
Yeah. Some of my old White Dwarfs, I've sadly got bits of them cut out.
Yeah.
As a young lad, I definitely did do that. I can't believe you still got some of those stickers, John. I want some of them.
That's the tiny amount of stuff I've been doing. Yeah, there we go.
Well, it's more than John.
Fair enough.
Well, I've been painting Death Company, but I didn't show you them.
Putting us all to shame is Tony. What are we looking at, Tony?
Okay, so this is my incursors that I've been working on. We saw them in the last episode as well. I'm just a little bit further along with these. So they've all now been panel lined to give them a bit more definition. They're a bit shiny at the moment because they're glossed where they've been panel lined and transfers and that are on them. So next steps, they need a few more highlights here and there. The bases need doing, then they need matting down and the lenses and stuff picked out. But I'll do the lenses and that last because I like to leave those glossy.
Are the helmets shaded, or do they need more work done on them?
They are shaded, but they have blown out a little bit on the picture.
Okay.
I always find it super hard to get the contrast in the pictures, like because they always tell you to use like soft lights rather than like the flash. And like they say, well, use mobile phones, but I don't have two other. I have actually sometimes gone to the wife and been like, "I need your mobile phone." She'll look at me like, "What the hell do you need it for?" I was like, "I need more light." It's very.
I'll take some proper pictures when I finish them.
Yeah.
But this is just with a mobile phone on the desk.
Work in progress.
Cool. You can see that I use bottle caps as little as miniature holders when I'm doing this sort of stuff.
So what do you do with the bases there? Sorry, can I just? You're putting some.
So I've sanded them.
Yeah.
I'm trying a different way. Normally, I make the bases separately and then pin the models to them, but sometimes they look a little bit like they're floating. And with the incursor / infiltrator kit, a lot of them have got little rocks attached to their feet.
Yeah.
And I always end up with an absolute bugger trying to remember which base lines up with which foot. So I thought, fuck it. What I'll try and do is I will make them as one piece. The bases are sanded, and then I'll cut back in with some really thin white paint so that I can do my normal, because I normally do a wet blend of like a darker brown to a really pale brown. So I'm going to try and do that while the models are on there. So fingers crossed that doesn't look fucking shit. And then I have to cut them off and start again. But
have you enjoyed the incursors? Because I enjoyed painting mine.
They're nice models, yeah. And I've always hated the stupid Geordie LaForge visors.
Yeah, the heads they come with are awful. I dislike it.
And my other incursors have got the Geordie LaForges, so I was like, no, fuck it. I'm going to buy some new ones. So this is the Forge World Mark IV helmets.
Yeah, that's really cool. The blood drop on the one sort of front middle. It's nice.
Yeah, so
There's a
I
lot of
went with
stuff
that.
on them, isn't there? There's a lot of
They're quite
little
gaudy. And I
gimmicks
thought,
and
wow, fuck it.
knives and straps and things.
I went with the gold on the helmets and stuff, and to be honest, that might have been a mistake because the gold doesn't look that good against the yellow. But you never know. I thought it'd look all right.
Fair enough. You could
And it might
outline it.
get finished.
Maybe put a splash of some dark ink around them to edge them.
So I
Yeah,
usually
stand
use
out.
right clint flesh shade on the yellow or the gold to sort of bring them a bit further apart. Puts a little bit of red back into it as well.
Yeah, maybe. So you can see on some of them, it's a little bit, like I said, it's blown out a little bit, but there is brown panel lining around everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
cool.
hopefully it'll
Great
look all right when it's something. It's just the colours, the tones are a bit too close together. So I might darken them down and go with a more bronzy gold for them and see if that looks better than the bright gold.
Fair enough.
But anyway, yeah, so that's that.
Next.
And the reason I haven't finished them is because I was doing some painting with a buddy the other day. I was talking him through some techniques. So while I was doing it, I got some other models out. So I've only done the gold and the metallics on the Sagittarium.
I thought
They
you were
are
massively put off Custodes lately.
I am,
No?
but I've got those. So, and I'm not that bothered. I've been playing a lot of Tempest, and it doesn't matter quite so much that they're a bit shit in the proper game. Because one of the reasons they're a bit shit is that their secondaries are fucking awful.
What was their win rate on the meta thing that they shared today?
It's funny because the meta one that GW shared, it's on about 52%.
Oh, really?
But but the one that Goonhammer did and a few other places have done have had it down at like 20-odd%.
Okay.
So
The workshop one is a running thing with like 100 days, I think they said. So that's what,
something like that. Yeah,
3 months?
Custodes have only won in any events, have podiumed a couple of times, but not really. The average has been, they tend to come middle of the pack.
Well, they're not looking at tournament wins, are they? They're looking at how many games do you win. So even if a Custodes event is never in a podium or a top finish, if they're still winning half their games, that's still sort of.
This is where they're going. So they're not winning tournaments or anything at the moment, but they are, because they're one of those armies that if you don't know how to play into them, you're going to get smashed. But if you do know how to play into them, then you're going to smash them.
If only we knew a video that went through all the details about Custodes and how to play into them.
Yeah, Pete, nobody makes those.
Yeah. Oh well.
But anyway, so I made up some Sagittarium. I did a bit of panel lining on them because just to make them a little bit interesting. So there's like a bit of purple and that in there as well in the shading, just to add a little bit of interest to what would otherwise just be a big chunk of gold.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the models are fucking awful to build. Do you remember the old models where you used to get a separate 2 hands and a gun?
Yes.
And they never quite lined up perfectly.
Yes.
Well, this is like that, except that it's separate 2 arms with the wrists of the cut-off bit. So they just don't line up. So there's a couple of them had to like extend out arms with bits of green stuff and that because you're like, this just doesn't line up. They are awful to build. And they're plastic and resin kits together, which means they're a fucker because they just don't stick very well.
Oh, yeah.
They're
don't really want to be
to
drilling
build.
and pinning too much of this sort of stuff, really, do you?
I was going to build 2 sets, and after doing that one, I'm just like, no, that's enough.
I sometimes find that on the bigger Forge World vehicles or something, it's like you get with them with the greatest of intentions, and when you've built one of them, you're like, right, I'm not going to build that other one for a little while.
I've had enough of that shit for a while.
These were an absolute bloody nightmare to make them look vaguely good.
They do look
You've done a good job. You've done a very good job.
Yeah.
As I'd expect nothing less from you, to be brutally honest with you.
So if they're plastic and resin, do you have to wash the resin?
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
But it's not too bad. You just, I get a big washing up. Like, actually, I use a roasting tin, a bit of washing up liquid and warm water and a nail brush. Just give it a good scrub.
Yeah. No, I did that as well.
I do that to all of the resin stuff. I've got fucking loads of the stuff.
Yeah.
Next.
Is there a next?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And this was on stream the other day. So this is the start of my Snotling team.
They're looking really
Mark
cool.
Mark did post this in the Grotty chat in the Discord, and I did mention it in the stream the other night.
Mhm.
So Mark and I are going to Warhammer World on the 28th.
Friday the
Smashing it
28th.
Blood Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah, 28th of October.
We still need to
2022,
arrange
in
how
case you're
we're
watching
going to
next
like
year.
teach you how to vaguely do stuff before then.
Yeah.
Because we muttered something
So-
about that. But we'll work
But
that
it
out.
means that I've got to get my Blood Bowl team painted before then.
So do I.
So on stream, I got this far. I managed to green the Snotlings.
You mean the
And
Grotlings?
blew those couple of robes. Sorry?
You mean the Grotlings?
Yes, that's
That
exactly
needs
what
to
we mean.
be the name of your team. It can't be Snotlings. It must be Grotlings.
Yeah. So
Have you thought of a
I've got
name
well
for the
on.
team?
The Crud Pack Nose Pickers or something.
Oh, you're just going to use what's on the box. Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. I'm just reading off the thing. I haven't come up with a name. I don't even know if you're allowed to come up with a name. Is it like
you
Underworld,
are
where it's like
encouraged
fixed?
to come up with a name for your own team. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll do that. I've got to work out what colours to do them as well, because apparently you need different colours for like blockers and line grots and stuff
you
like that.
don't need
but
it,
it doesn't
but it's
say-
nice little.
It doesn't say anywhere which one is a line grot or a blocker or a throwy running man or whatever
Whichever
it is.
grot you can take 0 to 16 of, that is the lineman grot.
Right. I need to
All
sit
the
down and work
others
this
are
out. What does Snotling
positionals.
pump wagons count as?
Special weapons. They don't count as any of the normal coloured stuff because they are crazy weapons of doom that are going to get sent off almost certainly. Because
Right.
you're riding a tank onto the pitch. Refs tend to get angry about that. But we'll talk,
I'm
I'll
really
talk you
excited
through it one
by
evening or something. It looks really cool. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
so
to playing it, getting humiliated.
Next
probably.
stream, I'm going to try and do. I'll probably do the next colour, to be honest.
No, that's fair. All right. Fucking
Oh,
hell,
and then I did
Tony.
actually paint something properly. Which
How much
was,
stuff? Putting the both of us to shame.
Yes,
I mean,
indeed,
you're
yeah.
always going to. You're just an amazing painter. It's very prolific, very cool.
This
Is
was
this the
how
master
quickly.
from Doctor Who?
No, this is Lord Veterinary from Terry Pratchett books. And it's come out a little bit dark on this because I forgot to take a picture. So I had to get. I've left it with a buddy because he wants to use it for D&D. So he's like, "Can you quickly paint me up Lord Veterinary?" And I was like, "Well, I
Yeah.
can only do a quick job." So this took me like an hour.
Mhm.
I just really quickly painted Lord Veterinary. And the thing that I'm most pleased about, you can't see on the bloody picture, which is I've actually, because it's just a metal model in his seat, and I thought it was a bit dull. So I made a wooden floor for him to sit on to make
Oh,
it look
okay.
like he was sitting in a study. And
I
because I was in a
can't
hurry,
just
I
see it, yeah.
used actual wood.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
and
right.
stained
Okay.
it.
Wow.
Because I thought that'd be quicker than trying to sculpt a wooden texture.
Yeah, no,
Just get a wooden
looks very
floor
cool.
and reduce it, rub it a bit so the grain come out.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was Lord Veterinary. That was like the world's quickest Discworld man.
Excellent.
Did you slap chop him?
No, I didn't actually. Genuinely, I didn't. But
I'm
the
just
description in the books is always wears just black.
Okay. So you wouldn't.
It's
Yeah,
like, well,
he's a
what-
cool
it's not like
character.
you can
to be
do with
totally
that.
fair. He's what, the mayor of Ankh-Morpork, is he?
Yeah,
Or
he's
something.
he's a patrician. He's the leader of Ankh-Morpork.
Oh yeah. Who's like the crime boss come
he's
something.
He's the legitimate ruler, but it's the whole thing of if you're going to have crime, it might as well be organised crime.
underneath me. Yeah. Fair.
Um,
And that is everything.
that is all I have managed to paint in the 2 weeks since we last filmed.
Yeah.
which is impressive. You always do a lot of stuff. I did do some Death Company on a couple of streams as well, but yeah, I feel like I'm much slower. Like I do like 4 hours of painting, and I have like red shoulder pads and like power swords blue, but it's what it is, I guess.
You should slap chop it then.
I should
Absolutely.
slap chop. My next army will be slap chopped.
What will your next army be?
Well, I mean, there's a 1,000 Suns sitting there, but Hero Quest. Apparently, I need to do the whole of Hero Quest. They have another.
That'd be
They're
wicked.
they're bringing out expansions quicker than I can fucking unbox them for the channel. To be
Yeah,
fair,
I'm like that. I still haven't taken the cellophane off Cursed City.
Wow, you actually
And the
got a copy of
expansions
it.
just
Is
come
that
up.
the original? Is that the original release or the new re-release they did like a week or two
Original
ago?
release.
Okay.
Did
you get hold of all the
taking the
expansions?
cellophane off of it?
Apparently
I
expansions
want
sold
to,
out
but
in
it feels a
minutes.
bit silly to. I didn't, but hopefully.
Oh,
it'll
if you
come back.
didn't, then you're not gonna. It's gone. It went within
And they're not.
minutes.
They've already said that they're going to only do that one release.
Mm.
Don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
so I haven't even started it. I haven't even finished painting fucking Blackstone Fortress yet.
I was gonna say there's a whole debate about the FOMO boxes, and if you're not familiar with FOMO, it's the fear of missing out boxes. That's just like I just wish they would put that to bed, honestly, because like your face there said like 1,000 words mark, where it's like, and it's the same with the limited edition books. Like
It makes me really annoyed.
I can appreciate from one point of view. You make stock. You don't want to be sitting on leftover stock you can't sell. So you make less than you think you're going to sell, so that you guarantee you're selling out, and that way you make profit rather than have some bit
why
tied up
can't
in
they just
leftover
make to
inventory.
order or whatever like they've done before?
I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
You know, I'm just having a look because remember what was that? The Blood Angels book for the Last Siege of Terror called. I can't remember the name of it.
Gates of Eternity, Edge of Eternity,
Gates of Eternity.
something of
is it
Eternity.
not Echoes of Eternity?
Yeah, it
Did
might have been
I
that.
just beat you both at lore? You'll never
Well, I haven't
see
read
it.
it yet.
I couldn't get hold of it.
John, have you watched that video yet? Have you watched the lore video yet, John?
Wait for it. I am 2 chapters into the Astrath book. I just started it this week, and I've done 2 chapters.
Have you watched the lore video that
No, 'cause
Tony
it
and I did when you
said
weren't
it would
around?
have Blood Angel spoilers, and I haven't read the Astrath book.
Nor have I. So there's no spoilers for that because I wouldn't have been able to put them in. Can I take over the viewing for a second, Mark? Is that all right?
Yeah, if you want.
I was going to say,
Let me just present this.
I don't know if this is going to mess up John's setup and what he thinks is the OBS is.
no, it's fine.
Hopefully you can all see that. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So
I
I've just
can.
gone onto eBay and typed in Echoes of Eternity because that was the book I wanted, and I was there 10 minutes before it opened.
Yeah.
You know, ready to roll.
Yep.
And you think, and they keep saying, "Oh, the scalpers aren't getting them." So let's have a look. I've just typed Echoes of Eternity. Let's have a Grots, the normal one. That's fine. About RRP, normal one. Oh, look, £255, £449,
Hold on, that one was £255.
£350. Fucking ridiculous.
The £255 one has bids on it, so that's the actual like that one will actually sell. People are actually fighting on that one. Go and click into it and see what the bid history is. Do you know how to do that?
I don't actually, if I'm honest.
So if you click on it, and then what you do is you click where it says
Where it
3
says
bids,
3 bids highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
and it'll show you who's bid, and you just scroll down a little bit. So the opening bid was 200. Someone went 233. So there's actually 4 bids on this.
It's just fucking ridiculous.
I was this close to making it the morning that Mark got. What book was it that you got? The limited edition one. Siege of Baal.
Devastation of Baal.
Yeah. I had it in my basket at like 5 to 10, and I had to think about it because it's £50 or something for a book.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd thought about it and clicked through to purchase, it was gone. And it actually, and as you said, 5 minutes, so like 10:05, it's on eBay for 3 times market value, 4 times market value, whatever.
It's fucking £500, you know?
And I was like, can there not be? Surely there can be a better system where like you could register with like everyone's got a My Warhammer account, sort of, you know, like Warhammer.
I
Plus.
want one of these books. Please reserve one for me.
Yeah,
I've got my Warhammer account.
These are the armies that I'm passionate about. Blood Angels, for example, you would tick a box. Am I interested in new book releases about Blood Angels? Yes. Will I buy special edition books? Yes. And then it could be like maybe those people. I suppose someone could come along and register to.
Here's an idea. If you're a subscriber to Warhammer Plus, you get access to that kind of perk.
Well, that'd be a perk that people might buy Warhammer Plus, other than just us.
But I found it very frustrating, and I'm not the sort of person who wants to make videos where I either slam Games Workshop or I just genuinely hate the YouTube channels, and I'll just say that all they make is like clickbait, hatey videos on Games Workshop. Like I hate that content. I don't watch it. So I don't want to make a video like that, but at the same time, like I was really frustrated. It's like this is a book about my faction that I'm really passionate about, and just because I need 2 minutes to think about it, it's sold out.
Well, I didn't even get the chance, did I? I was there. I was waiting to do it. But we had this with tickets as well. Yeah, Mark and I went to go to a tournament. No chance. I was actually going to enter Golden Demon, and there was a lot of professional painters that are really good, and they couldn't enter Golden Demon this year because they couldn't get tickets to enter. And these are people who have won Golden Demons in the past, couldn't go this year because they decided not to separate the participants and the audience tickets. So they all sold out, and the people who wanted to bring the incredible models couldn't bring the incredible models because GW decided that they couldn't, basically. And whether it's true or not, and I'm sure it's not, I've seen the quality of painting this year at Golden Demon, and it is brilliant. There's some amazing stuff there. But if you won it this year and you're thinking in the back of your head, yeah, but XYZ, the guy who's won it 7 times, couldn't go this year to compete against me. And you just think, well, would I have won if he was there? And now there's that nagging thing, and I just think that was really shitty.
Yeah.
I want to argue against that a little bit because Warhammer World was open on I think it was the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday running up to that weekend. There was non-ticketed entry, and they were accepting entries during those days.
Well, I think they did that in response to a few really, really snarky videos.
No. That was up there right at the beginning of the T's and C's when I was looking at getting the tickets in the first place.
I see.
That was part of the initial description.
So maybe that is slightly better, but I have a big issue with
the
limited
still couldn't
edition.
go and take part in the competition.
Yeah, you wouldn't be there to see the whole thing or to be there on the weekends.
To put your model in and compete.
Yeah. So that combined with the book releases being...
That really does annoy me, that.
Yeah, and I think it's just like if these books are selling out that quickly, and if there's still demand for them on eBay at that price, because the books are never more than 50, right? So that's like 5 times RRP. That's literally getting bids on, and that's the cheapest one on eBay. So I guess when that one goes, maybe the next one up starts getting bids. But like
the Darkness in the Blood one was 80. That came in a big box with a whole load of extras in it as well, rather than just.
Didn't someone do an unboxing video on that?
No, he did the Siege of
No, it's the other one you did.
Yeah, he did the.
Yeah, Darkness in Blood was out a few years before then, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if you unboxed it again, people would probably love to see it because people missed out. But it's a frustrating thing with those book releases because it just is. I missed out on the Astaroth one because it came out the same day as the Blood Angels Codex. I bought the Codex first thing. I actually have the collector's edition Blood Angels Codex.
And then it took 2 years for the paperback non-limited version of Astaroth to come out over all the COVID stuff as well, which was a bit of a disappointment for people who didn't get the
that's why I haven't read it yet, because I've only just got it.
Have you? Okay. Well, I mean...
I've got the audiobook now.
Yeah. I bought the hardback of the Astaroth book, but yeah...
limited stock of cool stuff is not a great customer experience. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
And without falling down the rabbit hole of like hate, I would just like it to be better, especially if it's a chapter that you're passionate about, they should really let you register, just let people register 1 faction or 3 factions, so you can't get someone that just goes, hey, I'll have every limited edition release and I'll make thousands of pounds on eBay and fuck the real fans, which is what's happening.
In other current events news, by the time you watch this video, whoever you are, wherever you are, the 35th anniversary big ass stream and reveals and stuff will have happened last weekend, assuming you're watching this when the video premieres. I mean, it's going to be 2 days after we film this. Yeah. Loads of people are going, is it going to be 10th edition? Is it going to be 10th edition?
All right, hold on. Here's a bit of fun then. Predictions for what it might be, because I've got my prediction.
All right, what's your prediction?
I think it's going to be an older edition, like they did with that 3rd edition, like a made-to-order older edition. I'm hoping it'll be 2nd ed, so I can get those 10 tactical marines and all the grots and
the gorgeous Blood Angel front cover of the box.
They didn't come.
I was really upset when they didn't put any of that in the other one they did.
They just
the Black Templar one you got, yeah.
They just shipped it in. What sort of box did they ship it in, Tony?
It's literally, in fact, I think I've got it in.
It's just one of the standard Citadel boxes.
Literally that. That is what it came in.
That's a shame.
And there's no box inside the box that looks pretty.
There's no artwork or anything.
No artwork
Yeah.
or anything. All there is look, it's just the tray and then
It's
you've got
the
the
trick there.
instructions.
Definitely
Yeah,
want
they
the
missed the
artwork.
trick. Yeah, I want the original box that came in. Even though I've got it right there, it's weathered for like 25 years. I need a new box. But
A
that's-
re-release of Space Hulk, maybe? Again?
I think the
I don't
tweet.
know
a
if they
few
will
years.
because it's 40k
I think it's
anniversary.
I was
Isn't
gonna
it,
say
rather
it's
than-
going to be a 40k release of sorts.
So a lot of the friends in my local circle caught on to the fact that GW repeatedly used the word epic when they were talking about this reveal stream.
Could be
Okay.
epic, yeah. I might get used for all those epic orcs
I'd
Got hold of-
love to have epic again. I'd love to see it in the same scale as Adeptus Titanicus and Aeronautica, and that would be cool. That would be brilliant.
It would
I'll
be
buy
cool.
into that.
Why did they discontinue Epic again? Just it wasn't popular enough, or
Mm.
no one
one of
knows?
those things. They went through a phase where because at one point they had lots of specialist games. I'm
Yeah,
a
loads
huge
of little
Lord
games.
Iron original Necromunda fan. I used to play mostly specialist games for a long time.
There was that Inquisitor
And they-
game where the models were bigger scale than normal stuff as well. Yeah.
50 millimeter or whatever, 52 millimeter.
Mm.
But they went through some changes in management around that time as well. And one of the things that did was they culled all of the specialist games. All of them were gone. And they said, we're just going to concentrate on fantasy, 40k, and Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
And everything else went. Epic went a little bit before then, but it was the same kind of. They just started culling them all off. In that, which was really sad because things like Battlefleet Gothic were incredible.
Mhm.
I used to love the original Necromunda, where it had the more verticality to it. I don't know if you remember that, like 1995 Necromunda with all the bulkheads
yeah.
and the
I
cardboard
had
terrain. I like
And they
that
all
a lot.
I
sort
had
of
the last
stuck
gang for
together
that.
if you wanted them to. Yeah. That was
and
cool stuff.
Arbites as well.
Although to be fair, there's plenty of places you can get really nice, like laser cut MDF terrain that you can stack up in lovely sort of displays and whatnot. So that's terrain that does a similar thing in a different way is much more easily accessible these days than it was
Yeah.
back then.
And Ash Waste, that's cool. There's the box. For the Necromunda Ash Waste.
There's Necromunda Underhive.
That was with the that's like the yurts, isn't it? There's like yurts on
Yeah,
poles.
and it's got these like, it's all red and deserts. Just look fun.
Mm.
But
And that
we're
new
gonna-
Kill Team box has got like Space Hulk bulkheads and stuff in it.
yeah, which I'm quite excited about to play with. I'm not really interested in Kill Team, to be honest. I've really bought into the previous version of Kill Team, and that annoys me a little bit because I've got all the expansion books. It's like all of those can go in the bin.
Yeah.
And some of them I'd only bought for like a month or two before they'd done that, and they were expensive.
That is exactly why I've not bought into the new one, as well as sort of protest against that, because I've got like
it
one
just
game
completely
out of it.
invalidated all of my stuff.
Which is why I'm hoping we get more time with 9th edition.
I don't think it'll be 9th. My money's on July next year for 10th edition.
I hope we don't get it then.
I hope.
I hope
don't
it's
want a
another
10th
year out
edition.
after that.
I don't even want a 10th edition. I just want them to find the most problematic things in this edition. Like, so if you're saying
Stratagems.
Tempest, if Tempest of War is strong, well, they already kind of dealt with that a little bit in that you start with fuck all CP now, right?
Yeah.
There's still a million of them, though.
Well,
Stick them in the new Nephilim equivalent book like they did with the secondary missions.
Yeah.
So there's only the stratagems that are in this book are currently valid for match play. And
Yeah.
each army's got 4 of their own ones, and then these are the couple of core ones that you can all use.
you
Yeah,
could
do a
you-
rule book 9.1, like iterate on it a little bit, and then everything that's currently out stays current and valid, and then you just reiterate on the codices as time goes by, and it becomes like a living game, a living rule book. I
Yeah,
don't
but-
want a new edition.
Yeah, I'm not excited about a new edition. One, because I think it'll invalidate everything, and then we'll go through a transitional phase of like a year again, where
A minimum,
things
yeah.
are just all messed up. Some people have their codex, some people don't, and then people at the start of the edition will suffer like we've suffered for the last 2 years, where we got our codex first, which was like a fine balanced book.
Which is cool at the time, yeah.
But then like every single other faction has basically like, hey, I've got a psychic power that can just do 6 mortal wounds. And I was like, well, I've got one that can do 1. Great. The squats, I've got a weapon that can do 12 mortal wounds. So it's like, well, I can do one, you know? And it's like, that's the problem that we'll have again if we move to a new edition.
Well, it's pretty likely that in 2 weeks from time of filming, Space Marines are going to get a buff, because Workshop have as much said so, with the fact that Space Marines are right at the arse end of the rankings right now, with their win rate of below 45%.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So in some way, Space Marines, Codex Space Marines is almost certainly going to get buffed, be that points or rules. Fuck knows. Probably not points, because they said they're not going to adjust points except on the 6 monthly basis. So it's likely to be rules, but I guess we'll have to see.
Well, so my current predictions are just... I'm playing it pretty cool on this one. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I think we're going to see some of the new Guard Codex. We'll see some of the World Eaters Codex. They might have a cool model to show off. They could do a bundle of the models.
This new Guard tank that's been very, very long rumoured.
Yeah, it'll be the Guard... Like they did with the squats, they'll do like some Guard Monday or something. I don't know. Astra Militarum Wednesdays. I'll see some of that sort of shit. If I'm feeling really, really, I don't know, drunk or whatever, and I've got to make some sort of wild prediction, my wild prediction would be Space Marine 2.0, and they've just kept it really quiet.
It's time for it. It's time to
the timing feels about right.
If
they're going to release 10th edition next year, which the timeline lines up, then if you think the old 8th edition Space Marine 2.0 was about 8 months or so,
oh, well,
10 months before the end of the edition.
I mean, the crazy out there prediction is another Loyalist Primarch.
I think that'll be 10th.
That could work. What about you mentioned Space Marine 2.0, right? Well, one thing that they could fix Marines with really quickly actually would be like Codex Warfare is... I've been looking at the data this week, and Codex Warfare is literally one of the worst performing secondaries in the entire competitive scene. You could instantly make that stratagem viable, or that secondary viable, by doubling the points you get for each of the things. Because
that's a good question. Yeah. Could they just change Space Marines significantly by
changing their secondaries like they do with Necrons?
A couple
essentially just buff their secondaries, and I think they'll probably be all right. That's what happened to Necrons, isn't it? They're still shit, but their secondaries are so good that they're doing really well.
And then my other question about Space Marines Codex 2.0, do you think that anything like Shadow Spear is just a no-go for this edition? Because the way I saw it before was like you had 8th edition, and then 8.5 was like Shadow Spear, right? Where it was like...
What?
Shadow Spear is the box that had the...
I thought that was just a box of Marines,
it was
rather than any kind of like rules changes or anything.
It was the Suppressors, it was the Infiltrators, it was the...
It was the Phobos stuff.
Yeah, you know, and that was called the Shadow Spear Phobos box set. It was...
Yeah.
Have it.
But I don't think it had any rules or anything. I think it was just the models, all the Phobos models come out in one box.
I mean, I kind of hope that they do another big event like the Psychic Awakening stuff, because that adds another 6 months or so of time for them to release more campaign books. And if they're not doing that already, then they got to start that now if they want to do 10th ed middle of next year.
Campaign books,
but advancing the plot line along would be most welcome.
Yeah. Because the campaign books kind of fell away there, right? Because like the last one was Charge.
Well, they still release them, but I just don't know anybody who buys them.
I mean, those little campaign supplement books they did, where it's like Warzone this and Warzone that had 2 pages of rules in it for each of 3 different armies. I'm glad they stopped those, because they were cash grabs for people who collected that army, and you had to pay full price for a book in which you're only interested in 2 pages for it. I thought that was a crap business practice.
Something that I've been throwing around the idea of is if they did do a Space Marine 2.0, it could be designed as a 10th edition codex if they were going to release that, which would mean that if the rumored, so it would be 10th edition compatible. So because if they're normally what they do when they do another edition is just tweaks to the rules. If they wrote it so that it worked with those tweaks, then that would line up with, do you remember there was those rumors about 10th edition box, which was going to be Blood Angels and Tyranids, or Blood Angels, but they're just generic Space Marines. And then the other thing that was going to come was Armies of Death, a new Armies of Death book with Blood Angels and Dark Angels as the big. Well, then that would line up, because if you released a Space Marine 2.0 that worked in 10th edition, then you could have your first big Codex release of 10th edition be Codex Angels of Death, Blood Angels with Dark Angels, bring back a Primarch, and then that's your big intro event. Whereas normally your big intro event is the new Codex Space Marines. This time it'd be Codex Angels of Death. And their timelines do kind of line up for that, but I think it's a little bit wild speculation.
I mean, this is all speculation at this point, so that's perfectly fair. It could be anything. It could be a huge fucking letdown for all we know.
I'm going into it thinking it's going to be a huge fucking letdown, and I'm going to see that new guard.
If GW do 10 streams a year, 8 of them are going to be huge fucking letdowns, because they'll cover stuff you're just not interested in.
Yeah.
This is a war. Normally, the reveal streams, you know, they spend 20 minutes on Sigmar and they spend 20 minutes on 40k. This is just 40k, right?
Yeah. 40k and Kill Team, I think they said.
Yeah. We're still waiting though
40k
for
and something else.
Guard and World Eaters, and I suspect we'll see a load of those. That'll be the big thing.
We're still waiting
if
on
I'm putting a sensible hat
White Scars, Raven Guards, Salamanders, Ultramarines.
they can fuck off. They're not important enough.
I suspect that after the way they did Eldar and Chaos Space Marines, the next Codex Space Marines is going to have all of those in them. In the same way Chaos Space Marines had 8 separate Legion rules in it.
That's going to be a chunky book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's chunky
yeah.
enough already.
Oh, yeah. All right, well then,
and just have the more divergent ones on their own.
As you're watching this, you're saying you 3 guys are fucking idiots. Of course it's Chaos, it's the Codex Space Marines. How could you not see that? Because it'll have already happened.
It's 10th edition. How ddid you not guess Primaris Terminators?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a rumour too as well. I mean, if we talk about every rumour here, we'd be here all week.
Primaris Terminators. Do you hear about that one fool who made a Terminator with a Primaris head on it? I mean, fucking hell, that was an ugly model, wasn't it? God,
Jesus
what kind
Christ,
of
I've blocked that
idiot
from my
would
mind.
do that?
I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking about that.
Oh, horrible.
That's going to be, and on this bombshell we can end the episode, that's going to be my video that gets 200,000 views. I'm going to title it, the best Primaris Terminator you've ever seen.
And then Tony and I sneak in and melt it with a cigarette lighter and a fucking can of spray or something.
When we come up to Scotland, we're going to do that.
And you'll never be invited back.
That's fine, because we will have achieved the goal.
We'll film it and we'll do it as a YouTube short where we just melt your
Yeah. The first you're going to know about it is when the episode airs.
Lovely. Okay.
And on that bombshell,
I think we are finished for this week.
Click like, leave us a comment.
I don't like you guys anymore. You're not my friends, so I don't want to record you anymore. Fucking let's end this. Yeah, we're done.
So yeah, tell us how wrong we are. Tell us if you like Tempest or you think it's shit. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't like it. It actually makes no difference to the algorithm.
And as always, if you find any value in what we do, if we make you chuckle, if we're informative at all, consider backing us on Patreon for a few quid or dollars a month, because it all helps this sort of stuff.
Or subscribe responsibly.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always.
See you next week, guys.
Bye, everybody.